Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahmavitvaram. We are starting this chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita for the youth. The earlier chapter concluded with a very important statement by the Lord saying that by undeviated devotion a person can know me, realize me, and enter into me. And in that he said, even though I have shown you this cosmic form, Vishwarupa Darshanam, by just understanding intellectually that the entire creation is none other than his own manifestation of various names and forms, by that mere understanding alone is not sufficient. One should get connected to the Lord. And therefore, the next chapter, that is chapter 12 here, is a logical connection between the Vishwarupa Darshanam and Bhaktihi. Now, the question is, what is devotion or why devotion? It is interesting to note that in the original Vedanta literature, which is none other than Upanishads, and based upon Upanishads only, the Brahma Sutras were composed by Vedavyasa, also the Bhagavad Gita. So the original Vedantic text is Upanishads only. In the Upanishad, we do not find this path of devotion. If at all there is any mention of any kind of loving attitude towards God, it is usually termed as Shraddha. Only in Kaivalya Upanishad we find the statement of Bhakti, also in some places directly and indirectly in Shveta Ashvatara Upanishad. If you take Kenopanishad, Kathopanishad, Mundaka, Mandukya, Taittiriya, Aitareya, Prashna, in any of those Upanishads very, very well known, Chandogya, Brahadaranyaka, in none of them we will find the teachings about devotion. So now, is it unique in Bhagavad Gita that we find this? Gurudev says, yes, it is so, because according to him, that the quality of the student or the maturity and integrity of the students have slowly have come down due to overwhelming materialistic attractions and engagements, and therefore the subtlety that is required for Upanishadic contemplation is no more available for in present day students, including in the case of Arjun. So Bhagavan Krishna, keeping that in mind, is specifically speaking about the path of devotion. Now, as we all been aware of, that Bhagavad Gita is broadly divided into 3 parts. I have explained this before. First 6 chapters are about the individual self, Tvam, and the next 6 chapters are about the Ishwaraha, the Lord, Tat, and the last 6 chapters are about Asi, the connection between the individual self and the universal self. So in the 12th chapter, which is the last chapter in this second section, speaking about the nature of the Lord, comes this, that is devotion. Therefore, also it is a logical connection, that is, having explained who the individual self is in the first 6 chapters and who is the Lord to whom the individual self should merge into, that is in this second set of 6 chapters concluding in the 12th. Now the next 6 chapters are about the connection between, or relationship between Tat and Tvam, or the Jiva and Ishvara. Before thus contemplating upon how to equalize, merge, to become one with the highest, which is going to be purely the set of instructions or teachings based upon Jnanam, Bhagavan Krishna had to explain and emphasize the need for a reverential, loving attitude towards the goal. So the goal is Godhood. The goal is to realize the oneness with the universal self. Being so, unless we have the pure devotion and respect for that goal, it will be difficult for us to move forward. So as it is said in Kaivalya Upanishad also, when the student is asking the question, please teach me about that Brahma Vidya, to his teacher, to which the teacher says to him, Shraddha Bhakti Dhyana Yogat Avaihi. With faith, devotion and meditation, you come to realize the oneness. So there also we see the emphasis is on the devotion which is required in the student for him to continuously and steadily go towards or walk towards his goal. Now, when you compare the path of action and path of devotion, as it is said in this chart here, the path of action has the purpose of purifying the mind by engaging in selfless action. Any spiritual aspirant who is trying to progress in his or her spiritual life, first of all recognize the 3 possible actions that a person has to engage, can engage. One is called Nitya Karma, which is said to be the actions that are prescribed by the Vedas or the scriptures for every individual according to the stage in which one is. And second one is called Naimittika Karma, actions that are prescribed to be completed by an individual as a social being. And then Kamya Karma. These are not prescribed, but if you have a desire to achieve anything in this world, there also the Vedas prescribe the methods of achieving them. And of course, the 4th category which has to be shunned, which is called Nishiddha Karma, which is to be abandoned, not to be performed. Now, when a person is ready to move forward in the spiritual life, obviously, one is expected to not to engage anymore in Kamya Karma or desire prompted action. Because desire itself is basically being an impurity in the mind. If one has to spiritually progress and move forward, first thing he has to or she has to give up is what is prompted by the desires or the demands of the senses. Therefore, what is left behind is only, they are only nimitta and naimittika karmas, or nitya and naimittika karmas, or what is ordained by the scriptures for things to be performed as duties, daily duties and obligatory duties. So purifying the mind is prescribed or as a purpose or known as the purpose of karma yoga. Whereas the very purpose of bhakti yoga is not just purifying the mind, but making the mind fully available with love towards the Lord, towards the Bhagavan, towards the absolute truth. Secondly, who is qualified for karma yoga? A person who is no more tamasic, obviously, a person who is lethargic, useless, unproductive, sleepy, disorganized, is not a person who is ever interested in spiritually progress. So he is already having rajas, the active mind, which is engaging in accomplishing things in the world. Such an active mind should be made more calm and quiet and focused. So karma yoga helps one to move from rajasic nature, extroverted nature, to much more calmer, quiet, insightful mind. So that is why karma yoga is for a person who is qualified in the form of having that eagerness to move from rajas to sattva. Whereas in the case of a person who is getting ready for devotion is one who, having thus relatively having purified the mind, is now trying to intensify the sattvic quality, intensify the calmness, intensify the introversion or focusing upon the higher goal. So the methodology used for karma yoga is engaging in kartavya karma, as I have explained to you, with no attachment to result. That is most important. With attachment to result, obviously, then he is converting the daily duties into desirable duties or desire prompted duties. This is not supposed to be done. So the method is do everything as an offering to the Lord. Do not become anxious about the results, etc. Whereas the method that is in path of devotion is constant contemplation upon the Lord. It is not an action. We'll come to that a little later. Why devotion is not an action? I will speak about that. The result of karma yoga is disengaging from the anxieties and strong likes and dislikes. That is what makes us get bound into this world. We are bound not by the world really, we are bound by the mind which is attached to the world, attached to certain particular results that we seek in this, whatever we do. So therefore, the anxieties resulting out of the expectations and likes and dislikes, this is what is to be overcome through karma yoga. And in the case of a person walking the path of devotion, the intention is to emulate the divine qualities of the Lord and become compassionate to every living being in this world. That when he or she comes to recognize Bhagavan, the Lord, as the very substratum of the universe, he or she himself, the Lord himself, is expressing as the entire universe, and which actually Krishna had demonstrated to him as Vishwarupa. And therefore, such an individual who is in the path of devotion eventually will develop an equal love for all living beings. Now, that is the reason why path of devotion is a graduation from karma yoga. This chapter opens with a question from Arjun. He says, he asks actually, I want to know between these two people, who is better? Worshipping the God with form or worshipping the God without form? Gurudev writes in his commentary very beautifully, this question has been there in this world as from the time man has started to think about God, and he started to have a philosophical outlook about the whole world. From then onward, the question has been there about, is the God who had created the world, or the one who is sustaining the entire universe, is he with form or without form? Is he perceptible or imperceptible? Is he visible or invisible? Is it knowable or unknowable? And today's science constantly says that, first of all, they won't accept the existence of God. That is one thing, that apart. And even if it is there, they always argue that that cannot be a thing perceivable. It is not a power that can be comprehended. So therefore, the question is so valid and so scientific. Now, Upanishads speak about the absolute as without qualities, or name or form, and therefore imperceptible. From the Upanishadic Rishi's standpoint, the whole world is none other than the very vibrating presence of the Lord, all right, but they do not speak about any particular form as God. In the Vedic rituals, there are many different limited powered gods were there, like Rudra, Agni, Indra, Vayuhu, Varuna. These are technically the individual powers that are governing this universe. And the rituals are to invoke those powers. But when it comes to the topic of Ishvaraha, the Lord, they say that he who is Adhyadadreshyam, Agrahyam, Avarnam, Achakshastotram, Tadapanipadam, Nityam, Vibhum, Sarvagatam, Susukshmam. In these many different ways, they talk about imperceptible, invisible, all-pervading, eternal, real. This way they define, no doubt, but not a particular form is prescribed. If at all they prescribe anything, it's only for meditation or the path towards meditation called contemplation. It is in the form of chanting the Om as a symbol of the Lord, and only symbol. It is not God. It is only a symbol, and that symbol will eventually make your mind quiet and contemplative and focused, and in that utter silence that is created within, you will glide into that vast awareness. So therefore, Upanishads do not talk about any particular form. But Arjun saw the cosmic form of God. In 11th chapter, Bhagavan Krishna showed him, I am the creation, I am the created, I am the sustainer, I am the destroyer, I am the beginning, I am the end, I am the middle, I am good, I am bad, I am origin, I am the end. Everything he showed completely. So he got confused. Which is better to worship? What is given in the Upanishads as the absolute truth, which is imperceptible, aksharam, anirdeshyam, avyaktam, in those technical terms they were used, or the one which I see myself looking at as the Lord with the form, Lord with certain qualities, divine qualities. In fact, if you look at every religion, whether you take Christianity or even Buddhism for that matter, they have huge Buddha's form. Did Buddha speak about worshipping him as a form? Did he talk about Buddhahood as becoming like a Buddha, as physically like a Buddha? Why the form? Christianity has either the cross or the Jesus on the cross or Mary with the child, a form. And Hinduism, don't even ask me. So many different forms are there, plenty. Even you take one deity, Ganesha, so every state has got different forms of Ganesha. If you take Krishna, every state, every city has got different forms of Krishna, different forms of Ram, different forms of Devi, different forms of Shiva, different forms of Hanumanji. So many things are there. So one will naturally get confused. What should I do? I want to focus upon God, but which God? Should I go into this variety of gods which are given to me? Or even if I have to think about the Upanishadic definition of God, uh, then it is formless. And how do I keep my mind in the formless? So you get confused. He is asking this question very relevant. What is better for me? Form or formless? So this is a very relevant question. Those who are really want an answer should further go into this. Now you see, Gurudev also says that symbolism of God is for the mind to have some support. But does it make a seeker a fanatic? We see in this world where religions have taken over our lives in one form or the other, and it also taken over a nation or a society of people. Even politics is political agenda is also dictated by certain religious fanatics in many of the countries. Two wars we have seen based upon religious fanaticism. Now you tell me how religion is not part of everybody's life. It is. And what kind of a religion we are talking about? It is stuck to a particular form. And they say this is the best. Islam will say that is the only thing we have to worship. Everybody else has to be gotten rid of. Christianity has been imposing that kind of an idea to the people for many thousands of years. Hinduism itself has got many such small and bigger wars based upon religious fanaticism. Every part of the world, Buddhism is fighting with Hinduism, Hinduism fighting with Sikhism, Sikhism fighting with the other one, Islam, Islam is fighting with Christianity, Christianity fighting with Jewish, Jewish fighting with Islam. This goes on. If you look at it, major wars are because of the religious fanaticism. So, symbolism of God, does it make a religious person fanatic? If that is so, why do we need the symbolism? Why do we need to have a particular narrow-minded definition of God? So Arjun's question is, what will be better for me to have a form in mind and think that that is me, that is what is called God, or to go by the route which Upanishads prescribe as imperceptible, unchanging, eternal, formless, nameless, absolute, all-pervading, which is good for me. Now, at the outset, at the superficially when you look at it, it look like I think Upanishads are better. They have understood this problem. That when we have a particular form and get identified with that as God, we become so hateful of others who don't believe in that. So it is better to get rid of all these forms, But then, how difficult it is for us to proceed further without any support. So Gurudev writes in his commentary, very beautiful thing. Can the ocean be fully realized through the knowledge of the waves? Or will the knowledge of the waves obstruct our comprehension of the ocean? Can you understand the ocean by knowing the nature and the number of waves that are there? Or when we keep looking only at the waves, can we ever comprehend the nature of ocean? In other words, looking at the limited form which we worship in a temple or a church or anywhere else, looking at a particular form, whether it is Buddha or Shiva or Krishna or Ram or Devi or Hanuman, Jesus Christ, whatever it be, have you forgotten the absolute nature of the Lord? Very often when we listen to the stories connected to Ram or Ramacharitra or Krishna Charitram or Shiva Purana and the exploits of Hanumanji or stories related to Christ and this and that, and so many different stories when we read, we are actually looking at the personality there. And as a personality is not all pervasive. So when we confine the idea of God to a particular form, we have forgotten the vastness, the grandeur, and the absolute nature of the Lord. So the difficulty is, one is, when I connected to a particular form, I become naturally fanatic. If I do not, I find it difficult to comprehend and contemplate. So what is the way out? When Arjuna asked such a question to Krishna, as you all know, Krishna would not give direct answers. A teacher who gives direct answer to a student has made the student dull, because he is not giving him an opportunity to think. If you ask me, choose between A and B, and I tell you, for you, I will tell you A, then you will go home. A is good for me. But A is good for you only, and not for always, and not for everyone. After some time, you will find A has limitations. And you come back to me and said, I have been thinking about it, and you told me to follow the path of A. Is that fine? No, go to B. Why didn't you tell me before? So the student has to be, the teacher has to be careful about giving an answer, and even if at all he gives an answer, he keeps the answer open-ended. So when Arjuna asked this question, worshipping with the form is better or worshipping without form is better? What is the answer Krishna gave? He says, who is worshipping is important than what is being worshipped. Who is worshipping? That is important than what is being worshipped. Because the worshipper, the individual, what is his quality? What is his maturity? How much he has evolved? Based upon that alone, the path is defined. If I have a job to be accomplished, what do I do now? Because I know that I need somebody to do that job. What do I look for? Having defined the job, now this is what is to be accomplished. I look for a person who is qualified to accomplish that. Is it not? Not that I get some people first of all and then start defining what do I do with these people now? How do I employ them? That is not the right way to do. You first define the job and then look for the qualified person. In the same way, when it comes to bhakti, devotion, now devotion has to be defined. What is devotion? That is defined as a constant, continuous attention upon the higher. Swaswarupa anusandanam bhaktihi. Shankaracharya defines this. Continuous contemplation upon the true nature of oneself. So having this clarified, that point, that continuous attention upon the higher nature of oneself. Now, what kind of a qualification necessary for this student to make that happen, to accomplish that? Now, he gives three things. First one is focus. The mind must have a clear focus on the final goal. Meaning what? Effortless flow of thoughts associated with God. When your mind has to put effort to think about God, understand you have impurities. It's like a water flowing through a pipe to the other end. And the amount of flow that is coming into the pipe is X. But the amount of flow that is coming out of the pipe is Y. So X is of this much of force and Y is of that much of force. X is not equal to Y because the pipe has limitations. There is more and more clogging inside the pipe, less and less will be the output. Even if the flow is more, output will be less. Why? In between, There are so many hindrances, obstacles. Bhagavan's grace, Bhagavan's karuna is constantly upon each one of us. But the expression of that grace, expression of that blessing through us to the world around us does not happen that easily, because there is so many impurities in our mind in the form of asanas and likes and dislikes, and our own priorities and sensuous indulgences and so many other things. Therefore, Bhagavan's blessings are not flowing through us, neither to us as well as not to the world. That's why in our pledge what we have, may thy grace and blessings flow through us to the world around us. And may I become empty so that entire grace of yours may pass on to the world through me. And that's what Mahatmas are. Mahatmas are none other than the instruments or the equipments Bhagavan uses to show his grace. And they are empty. They are completely hollow. So whatever Bhagavan's grace is, continuously it flows towards the world. And whereas you and I, we have so many impurities in our mind, and therefore the flow of the grace is not there. So continuous, effortless thought flow is what is called focus. So devotion is possible only when the devotee is able to have a clear focus, effortless flow of thoughts. Second, he says, fortitude. First one is continuous, second one is consistency. It is not once in a while, as Gurudev would say, our religion is not Sunday to Sunday religion. It is not that Sunday morning you go and worship and rest of the entire week you do all the blunders in your life. No. Consistent engagement without any distraction by the senses. So this continuous, not inconsistent, these two you should understand. Continuous is effortless movement. Consistency means the same speed or same intensity with which it has to go. And so the consistency comes only when you have inspiration. In your own life, you will find you are able to engage in a particular field or an activity more than anywhere else is because you are inspired to do that. You love to do that. If you are a musician and if you want to sing and if you enjoy singing, nobody needs to tell you that you should practice. Is it not? Why? Because you have a steadfastness about it. You have a liking for it, or you have a charm for it. You have understood the purpose of it. You have understood what you can accomplish out of that. And therefore, without any external pressure or anything, even there are certain distractions that may come on the way, but you are able to go through that without getting too delayed or disturbed. That fortitude is the second one. The third and most important one is the faith. That I can accomplish this. In the faith, in Shraddha, in the path of Bhakti is very clear. What is that? Three things: existence of God, trust in the guidance, dedication in the path. Bhagavati Shraddha, Ishware Shraddha. Then Guru Upadeshe Vishwasaha, trust in the teaching, as well as a total dedication in the path that you have taken up. That this path will take me there. So, in the Ishvaraha, Guruhu and Marga. Marga means the path what you have taken up. So, these three are the kind of faith that one has to have. So, quality of a devotee is what? He must have the correct focus, effortless association with the Lord, fortitude, consistent engagement, and total faith in what one does. This is again not a blind faith, as Gurudev writes in his commentary also, not blind belief because somebody said so. No, as even you start experimenting what is given to you as the teachings and guidance by the teacher, with the faith that I can accomplish reaching the Lord, with complete love and dedication with which you perform or continue to engage in what is prescribed, there is definitely the result will come, and the result will make your faith stronger and stronger. So here there is a beautiful statement which I found Gurudev quoted in his commentary. Worship of God with a desire for some result is the worship of one's own self only, not of God. Worship of God should not be think about some external result. Oh, Bhagavan ye dega, Bhagavan wo dega, Bhagavan will take care of my problems, Bhagavan will do this and that. If you are worshipping Bhagavan for the sake of not him, worshipping of God not for God, worshipping of God for something else, then you are worshipping only that. See, if I come to you and I ask you, hey, can you invest money in my business? And you ask me that how much you want? I said this much amount I want. If I don't give you, what will you do? I'll go to somebody else. See, therefore, my coming to you is not for you. My coming to you is for money. So whom are you loving, me or the money? That's why Bhagavan is always smiling, you know. You come and say all the prayers, but you are praying for what? Bhagavan ye de do, Bhagavan wo de do, Bhagavan ye kar do, Bhagavan wo kar do. So you are actually loving that thing. See, if I go to a shop for buying something and that particular object is not there, I go to another shop. So I am not faithful to the shop. I am faithful to the object which I love. So that is the reason why people keep changing also. If you have love for knowledge, and that knowledge you can get from a particular teacher, then your love for the knowledge and the teacher will make you get dedicated to that teacher and that knowledge only. Otherwise, what will happen? You go there. Oh, that Mahatma says that, and I will go there. And this fellow says that I should do Surya Namaskar, I'll go there. If that fellow says stand upside down, I go there. And then some chakra, some this, that, you know, chakkar mein pad jayega. Because there is no real love for God. That's why they even keep changing the temple also. That temple I have been going, I think I got bored. I go to this temple. That means you are going to the temple, not to the God. You see? So, worship of God with a desire for some result is worship of that object or one's own self only, not for God. Now, having explained the quality of a devotee, Bhagavan here proceeds to say, now you ask this question, Hey Arjun, who is better? The one who is worshipping the God with the form or the one worshipping without the form? Now, when Arjun asks this question, he is not asking for somebody else. He is not asking for Bhishma or Bhima. He is not asking for Yudhishthira or Sahadev. He is asking for himself only. You know, some people are very funny. They come and ask me, Swamiji, I have a question. Somebody, let us say, somebody has a problem of this kind. What is your answer? I always ask that person, is it somebody's problem or is it your problem? If it is somebody's problem, let that somebody come and ask me that question. If it is your problem, then you ask that question to me. Always, you know, we put the third person. Let us say, Swamiji, oh, a mother has that problem with this child. What will you do? Let the mother come. I will tell that person. So here Arjun, when Arjun asks, let us say that a person is having a doubt, right? Whether worship of a formful Lord or worship of a formless Lord, which is better? Krishna smiles and said, is that your question? Yes, yes, if it is so, let me answer this question to you. Now, when it comes to formless, qualityless, absolute. Upanishad describe that as absolute, abstract awareness and attention. What is this? Now see, to contemplate on the formless God, one should realize that He is beginningless and endless. See, when we understand Bhagavan the Lord is a creator of the universe, let us say, then if He created everything, who created Him? He cannot be created by somebody else. Or if the world is created and world comes to an end, at the end of it, what will remain? The one who created will remain. He is endless. In space, you go from point A to point B. Where does space go? Where is the beginning of space? Where does it end? Does it end at all? So, creator has no beginning. Creator has no end. Creation has beginning. Creation has an end. Similarly, now you look at it yourself. You are born and you know that you will die. Okay? Now, you were born when we say, so Vedanta looks at it as you, the soul, born into this body. You, the soul, will leave from this body. When you, the soul, get into the body, it is called birth. You, the soul, when you leave this body, is called death. Where are you? Who are you? Do you have a beginning? And do you ever have an end? Recognize that. That you, that self in you, is the expression through the limited equipment. Call the body and call it as a birthday. And you, the limited, you, the one, infinite one, when you have rejected this limitation of the body, that is what is called death. So that worship of the Lord with abstract understanding of Him to be absolute must be recognized as that Lord is beginningless and endless. Second, no limited means of knowledge can be used to realize that. The experience of God is not external. No limited means of knowledge can be used to understand that. And experience of God is not an external thing. When I use limited means of knowledge to understand the Lord, only limited understanding of the God will take place. If I am looking at the world, at everything around me, with a blue glass, everything will look blue, and that is not a limitation of the world, limitation of my equipment through which I am looking at it. When a telescope is used to look at the distant star, and they say the most distant star is X number of light years away, let us say. And when they start increasing or perfecting the technology more and more, these telescopes are also becoming more and more sophisticated, and suddenly they discover that there are more stars beyond what they had seen before. So what were they not there before? Yes. How I was not able to see? Because the technology was not available at that time to look at those stars. So the limitation of the equipment with which you cannot, limited equipment cannot comprehend the unlimited. And when we define a God as a particular form, actually we have defined Him and delimited Him. So experience of God is also as not an external experience. As in the form, when you experience God, it is obviously a limitation of the mind. We want the experience of anything to be an objective experience. But Upanishad would say, God is a subjective experience. Now, in simple way I put it, let us say you are giving me a sweet and I take it. And I had such a wonderful taste of that sweet. Ah, so nicely done. You look at me and say, is it really sweet? Yes. But when I ate, I didn't feel anything at all. Now tell me, that sweetness that I experience out of that and the experience that I had, can I ever transfer that to you? Is it possible for me externally to make you experience the same way I experience the sweet to you? You cannot. I cannot. Because I used my equipment, and with that limitations of my equipment, I experienced it. And with limitation of your equipment, you experience the same sweet. It is decided by the experience of yours is decided by your equipment. And the same sweet is experienced by me from my equipment. I can never transfer that to you. If even as this simple thing called a sweet experience cannot be transferred to you, how to talk about that limitless supreme reality experienced by the Mahatmas? How can they ever translate that into you, your experience? They can only make you becoming eligible, qualified, perfect to the extent where you also can start experiencing more or less in the same way. It is not an external experience. But for that realization, complete undeviated attention is required. Perfectly pure mind is required. Extremely calm mind is required. Thoughtless state of mind is to be achieved. Distraction-less attention has to be maintained. So therefore, one should get ready for, if one wants to have that formless, nameless, qualityless nature of the Lord to be experienced, one should get ready. And how? Restrain the senses and the mind. Maintain equanimity. Serve all with joy. Bhagavan does not say go to a temple, do 7 daily puja, do arati, show agarbatti, make prasad, engage in some and enjoy some festivities, do fasting and feasting, go to pilgrimage. No. A person who is seeking to realize God in its original nature is expected to engage in a different set of discipline. Recognize the disturbing, agitating nature of the senses and the mind, and slowly restrain them, control them, have mastery over them. In different situations of life which will bring joy or sorrow, failure and success, maintain equanimity. And at the same time, don't shun yourself from the world. Don't run away from the world. Serve all people with joy. Serve all of them with great amount of happiness. So this is for those who are interested in worshipping the Lord without form. Now, what are the hardships that are there in this? See, the hardship in contemplating upon the Lord of the supreme nature in its original absolute nature, as per your identification, so is your perception of the world. As per your identification, so are the thoughts arise that in your mind. As per the desires, as per your identification, so are the desires that you will entertain. As per your identification, so are your judgments about others. As per your identification, so are the prayers that you have for the God. As per your identification is the journey of your daily life. So Bhagavan says, identified with the physical personality, contemplation on the formless God is very hard. And most of us are From morning till evening, we are only identified with the body. Which is the time, you tell me, where you are not identified with the body? Huh? From the moment you wake up till you hit again back to the bed at the night, is it not that all that we do are with the body, by the body, for the body? With the body means what? With the body means with the help of the body. By the body is means what? By associating ourselves with the bodily demands. And for the body is what does it mean? For the maintenance of this body. For the pleasure of this physical body. And so, Bhagavan Krishna says that so long as you are identified with the physical body as you, how can you remember the Lord as formless, bodiless? And understand that as per our identification, so will be our perception of the world. Look at a small child, maybe 2-year-old, 3-year-old. What is its understanding about the world? Tell me. The child of 2-year-old, 3-year-old, what is its perception about the world? Does it bother about economics of what is going on in the share market, political system, relationship, about engineering, about commerce, about medicine, about law, about software? Nothing. At that point of the child's growth, all that is interested in simple things. Toys, friends, play, sleep, eat. That's all. So what is the identification of the child at that point? You were also like that only some time back. You were also at that condition. What? 2-year-old child. Think about what was your life at that time. What was your perception of the world? What are the priorities of that world at that time? What kind of thoughts that you had in your mind at that time? What kind of desires that you have at that time? What kind of judgments you had about at that time? If at all your mother insisted that you should pray to God, oh God, give me this toy for Christmas. Is it not? Or this toy for my Diwali, or this toy for my birthday, and that I want a car. What car? Not the regular car, but a little car. That one which I play with my friend, my brother. See? And then you grow up to become a teenager. Then, is it not that your perception changed? As becoming a married individual or an adult, is it not your perception changed? As per our identification, so will be our life journey. And Krishna says, those who are strongly identified with their individual personality as body or mind or intellect, such an individual cannot ever be able to contemplate upon the formless, nameless, absolute nature of God. And if at all he or she tries, it is very, very hard. Dehavadbihi dukkham avapyate. Kleshodikatarastesham avyaktasakta chetasam avyaktahi gatir dukkham dehavadbiravapyate. Any identification with the individual personality will not allow you to contemplate upon the absolute Lord easily. It's very hard, not easy. Therefore, Bhagavan Krishna, keeping that in mind and specifically addressing to Arjuna, to all of us, he says, now I'll tell you how you can practice devotion to God. Simple, practical advice. Having explained how difficult would be to contemplate upon the absolute nature of the Lord when you are identified with your own body and individual personality, now I'll tell you a practical thing how you, whichever condition you are right now, is possible for you to start your journey of love. Devotion is not a practice, it is a love in action, first of all. It is not a karma. It is not just a puja. It is not a prayer. It is not pilgrimage. It is not fasting and feasting. It is not shaving your head and going to Tirupati. It is love in action. And where it is to be practiced? In everyday life. Think of Him as the supporter of all your actions. You cannot do anything without His presence all the time in all things that you do. Your physical body, your mind, your thoughts, the environment in which you are working, the people with whom you are working, everything that is in and around you, it is He who supports that. Think of Him as the doer of all actions. Through you, He is getting things done to others. And through others, He is getting things done to you. Every individual in this world is none other than Bhagavan's instrument through whom the Lord is engaging and maintaining in this entire world. Think of Him as the giver of result of all actions. Actions produce results. But between the action and the result, the one who decides the entire law of karma, that is He. Think of Him as the recipient of your actions, whomever for whom you are doing. Whatever action you are doing, the one who is receiving the result is none other than the Lord Himself. Devotion is to decide Godhood as your goal. So as a practice, we must understand He is the support, He is the doer, He is the giver of result, He is the recipient. Then who are you? So for this, you don't need to go somewhere to do this. In every moment, in every action that you perform, Bhagavan hai dharta, Bhagavan hi karta, Bhagavan hi dhata, Bhagavan hi bhokta. Dharta means supporter. Dhata means, karta means doer. Dhata means giver. Bhokta means one who enjoys the result. When you realize Him to be the whole, then that Godhood, that emulating His qualities should become your goal. So emulate His qualities and feel His presence in all interactions. So don't run away. Don't try to make your mind get into some solitude in this thing, thinking that I am contemplating on the absolute. You'll be wasting your time. Instead of that, come to do the work, do everything that you have been doing, but understand Him as the consistent supporter of everything that you do. Feel His presence at all times, in everything, everywhere, at all interactions. Slowly emulate His qualities of goodness, compassion, love, gratitude, joy, peace, and develop those things, and you will find you are coming closer to Him. We'll see more of it in the next class. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkhabhat Bhaved. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.